Yes.
Sean, thank you so much. Most of the acts like to have to be here with you guys is part of your job, doing great things with us. So I need to say thank you. Recording these like to share to the globe, like to say you are a good guy. Thank you so much.
Can we make sure that my wife's copied on that?
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, of course. We're gonna share with her.
She will be proud that Sean is a good guy.
She'll be like, this show is so full of shit.
Am I correct, Paul?
Yeah.
Am I correct? Yeah.
For sure. Like, even though he may not be producing sessions here, right? You're not on the stage that much.
We've one. Yeah, I have two main sessions, one on the main stage.
Yeah, see, that's real work. But yeah, the connecting of everybody for sure is definitely one of Sean's strengths. No doubt.
And you were telling us about the feeling. How does it feel like to be at the main stage?
I don't mind. Actually, what we were talking about before was it was weirder when they do the pre-session.
Mhm.
So even though the lights are there and you can't always see, and I can't believe I didn't see 70 of you guys in yellow.
Yeah.
So that'll show you how bright the lights are. It's weirder when they ask you to do your pre-session run through, and there's like one person 400 feet away in the top and someone else, and they're like, how does it sound? You're like, who cares? It's one, right? But it's weird to kind of run through a session when it kind of doesn't mean anything. That's hard for me.
Yeah.
I usually run through sessions a lot in my head, actually, but rarely do I actually do the mirror out loud. I find that weird. That's just not me, but I've run it a bunch of times in my head.
Yeah, good. And did you play pickleball? Did you guys play?
I did not. The schedule was too
So,
packed.
I think the end of this conversation should be at pickleball. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Actually, we are both equally handicapped by wearing Chuck Taylors.
Right.
Very good.
To play pickleball.
Not wearing athletic shoes. The bow tie gets in the way every time you try to, I guess.
How was your day, guys, yesterday? And about you were sharing knowledge at these parts that we have here. And what can you share about it? Like, you just teach, or you are joining with some presentations just to have a seat and watching someone? What do you do?
Yeah, the day work. Well, did you had a stage session yesterday too, or were you just?
No, I had that session. I had one other session, and then actually the coolest thing for me yesterday, weirdly, was I emceed some sessions, which means normally, to your point, I'm usually really busy while I'm here, and this year they asked me to MC some sessions, and at first I was a little hesitant because you're like, it's literally like my 2 free blocks yesterday. But the cool part was no one can ask me to go do anything else because you're like, I'm emceeing a session. I have to go do this.
You got to listen for 2 sessions.
But then I got to sit, and after you intro and do whatever, you actually get to sit and watch an actual session the whole time. And WorldatWork was cool. You kind of got to pick during that session what your preferences were. And for me in particular, there was one on exec comp, which is probably the weakest part of my, if I was going to consult full time, you would not hire me as exec comp. Anything else, like I feel super confident, like I could tackle that. And I got to go to a really cool exec comp session, introduce some people. And then actually one of them was someone that had been influential in my career, which is kind of interesting too. But then sit back and listen, and then do some questions. And that actually doesn't, weirdly, Paul and I can attest. It's actually hard for us to find session time.
Yeah.
Back to school. Were you the guy in front of the class asking all the questions in school time?
Oh, in school time?
Or were you the guy that was not even in the classroom?
Yeah.
I would predict that Sean was not the one in the front of the room asking all the questions.
So you would be wrong.
Oh.
So I didn't. So the weird thing is, I tell people all the time I don't have a degree, which is true. Life circumstances. I have in the U.S. you need 120 credits to graduate. I have 168. I went to school a lot. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. It's truly a story we haven't talked about a lot. Total Rewards finds you. And I actually got into development with the internet because you didn't need requirements. Like the weird way I got into it was being uneducated. But I did sit at the front. I think mostly the way I learn and do other things is different. And there's a traditional teaching model, and I had to work harder. And so to work harder, you got to be at the front and not. And if anyone knows me, I get distracted.
And how does it feel? Sorry, you can finish.
Oh, no, it's just, I can't sit at the back because I like to have lots of things going on. So if you're at the back of the class, other people have stuff going and then I'm watching that. And so you just, even at that age, I realized I had problems. And so you sit at the front. So I actually sat at the front a lot.
I figured you were more like me, which was those distractions were more fun than the class. And as a result,
But they don't test. The tests weren't on the fun stuff going on, unfortunately.
That's fair. That's fair.
And you, Bo?
Yeah, I think so. My primary role yesterday was facilitating a session on AI in the skills lab here. So, right, not theory, like fingers to keyboard. And the vision, we talked to WorldatWork about this on one of our episodes beforehand, was like small, intimate, get into the tools. It is such a popular topic. It was no longer small and intimate. So a session that we had expected 50, 60 people had 200 and
it was
60.
in front of television. You were sharing,
So like on a tiny screen, and some people can't have a lap to put a laptop on. So like we had to pivot a little bit and like how to do it, but it just shows the level of interest in it's time to break through the wall of using AI. How do I do it? So we had to change up some things. I've got another one of those today when we talk about what's coming, but like, how do you help people get through the practicality? So that's a teaching moment. Like that's not me looking smart. That's me like showing people do it this way. Don't do it this way.
Okay.
And then I became the entertainment, right? At happy hour time, Brian Briscoe and I just told jokes.
There was like,
for a little while.
We were playing pickleball and like sharing this part with you, watching you. There wasn't a kind of an event. Put people at the stage, like to share some.
Just were just allowed to ask questions.
So that's the part that you saw. Yeah, we were. You've ever seen Whose Line Is It Anyway? Popular American sort of improv comedy show. That's what we were replicating.
Oh yeah,
and that was one of the moments. Was a game that you play where you have to ask questions.
The interesting thing on the AI, like we had talked with Pete, who was in here yesterday, right? A year ago, the vibe yesterday and the vibe coming in a year ago was AI. Oh shit. Right. Like that was kind of like, what is it? What is it going to do? It's going to take all our jobs and robots are going to take over the entire planet. Right. And I think it's pivoted a lot this year because I think last year when there were AI sessions, I think people either didn't go or there were 30 people. And now they're like, it's here. How do we use it? How do we make our job better? And I think that has fundamentally changed this year. And even on sessions that weren't just AI, you see them like, how do we do merit or how do we do other stuff? It's about using, how does AI mix into that the best way possible? So I think over a year, you've seen a big fundamental change in the energy towards it, positive versus negative.
The end of 90s, beginning of the 2000, we're seeing this kind of revolution. The spreadsheet, the Excel, Microsoft was this kind of like, I remember a company in Brazil, we have 30 people working in the compensation area, and then we got an Excel, and then we have just 3 people working doing these things. And now we have AI. So it's not, I think, like the job is not losing, but we are doing these things different.
Yeah.
Like we need to understand how to move this machine, but you need people, you need to do like this.
Yeah.
We're a human being.
Well, that's, I was asked a question at one point about like, how do I know I'm picking the right AI? Like, do I need to be on OpenAI? Should I be on Claude? And I'm like, you're asking the wrong question, right? Thinking about AI is like thinking about when you used a computer or you did it in Excel or using the internet. Think of it more as like a technology change, not a tool that's specific. All these tools are going to be different in 4 years, just like, Lotus Notes and, what was it? What was their Lotus 1-2-3, right? That was like
Lotus
their
1-2-3
spreadsheet.
was the big one.
Yeah.
It was probably fine to be really good at that at the time. Yeah. The point was learning how to think about how do you use a spreadsheet rather than how do you do it on paper, right? And how does that make you more efficient? So
and I think there's being less fear going on now about losing. I mean, people are always worried about losing their jobs, right? And you're right. So I think more the internet is the one I use. History rhymes. It doesn't repeat as rhymes. And when the interwebs came out, right, and really started going, everyone's like, we're all going to lose our jobs. There's going to be all these people, and people are talking about social pay because no one's going to be working, and the interweb's going to do everything, right? And that never happened. The premise of everybody getting let go, in my mind, is that there's too much budget and there's too much headcount in total rewards. Like that has to be a true statement before you can start to take away a lot of the work to be more efficient to get done what has to get done.
Yeah.
And I just firmly believe they are not overstaffed in HR or total rewards. And so if they're doing 40% extra work and you can take 40, 50% more work down off of that, you're like, now they have some time to do some cool stuff, but they're still getting back to the norm.
AI is the high topic, or they are talking about skills, pay for skills. This is something that in the 90s again, it was the subject, but right now I think is coming. Like, is it true?
I think people talk about it. I still think, and I think Sean's a little bit of a skeptic on this too. I think the way we're talking about it is still a little wrong. One, I think it does make some sense in some jobs that there are things like, do you know how to do this? That's a skill, but there's still a lot of myth about what you can do with that, right? Because if you look at even some of the tech products around it, a skill is just a word. And how do I know if you're good at it, right? Like I can Excel, but can I do it well?
Yeah.
It's hard to know quality of skill, I think, is one part of it. And I think the second is we've forgotten that skill-based pay in particular has been around forever, just in different forms. So in a manufacturing floor is where it's the most mature, honestly. Like, do you know how to run this machine? That's a skill. And companies have been paying for that for decades. Like, that's not new. So I think we're trying to reinvent something like using technology rather than like, what problem is it solving? Are we really going to pay more for somebody who knows Claude today when Claude's not going to be worth a premium in 6 months?
So that leans into the reason I'm skeptical, right? Is I think you hire for skills, right? And to your point, it's hard to do. I don't think we can pay for skills until we will unpay for skills. And so if I hire for Claude, or I hired for, the example I use a lot is I hired for Python 3 years ago. ChatGPT, Claude in particular, it slings kick-ass Python code, right?
You don't need a person for that.
And so if I paid $8,000 a year, am I going to unpay that person $8,000 a year because I don't need it now? In some states in the U.S., that's just illegal. Right? You can't move people's pay down. So you're stuck now. And then they red circle them, where you don't give them an increase. So maybe they go somewhere else. Like the complications around paying for skills and the practicality of it. The other example I give is in development, if there's a new code that comes out or new way or AI code comes out, right? You're on your old software base and you write on the new. If you pay for people to write on the new, who's going to stay and keep care of the old? And are they really going to be in the same office and be like, Paul's moving over there. I'm keeping the lights on and paying the bills so that Paul can get paid extra money. That's not super cool. Right. And so there's a lot of practicality around how you pay for skills and how long do you pay for that skill? So like Y2K, since you were going back that far, I slung some kick-ass COBOL Y2K code. Right. Would you pay me extra for that now? Or, maybe when Y3K comes, but like, there's not like, how long should I have been paid for that? And is there a penalty phase? And if I got paid $8,000 to pay for Python, do you add another 8,000 on for Claude, even though now I'm ahead of everybody in my group that didn't know Python? The fundamentals of it break down, I think, in practicality. I think TA, 100%. Like you pay for skills and they can go on the market and be like, someone right now, if you need this, you need to evaluate your ranges because the problem, you create compression.
You just can't hire at this.
You can, you're going to have a compression issue. You're going to have these issues. So I think the practicality, like you were talking about, and companies do like this job at this manufacturing firm, which needs, CNC machining versus this firm that doesn't, they kind of, and they pay more. They're paying for the skill. Like they fundamentally happen. Supply and demand takes care of a lot of that.
That's right. I think that it's been a buzzword for a few years now. Like I remember actually it came up when we were doing our first panel in Cincinnati. It came up as a question and that was my answer at the time. I'm like, if I ask all 300 of you what you even mean by skills-based pay, we're going to get 300 different answers. Because nobody knows. And I think we know what it is now, but I think now is when the arguments of, well, would you actually do this are coming out? And to your point, a lot of people are talking, not a lot of people are doing.
And these, when you think about technical skills, hard skills, I understand and agree with you. When you think about soft skills, like the way, like how you leadership your team, how you conduce, like to get these, all the goals you need to get. So I think this is a point because the human being is like this. Like you put money at the table, And for someone do something, the money is not necessary. You need to have someone like to encourage doing something like, and what is the price of it? Like to have people that can move another one, like to convince someone to do something.
I think your answer about skills generally is the way I would think about that. Like, that's how you pick for the job.
Yeah.
You're not going to pay me more because I'm a good motivator or because I'm a good leader. It's like, don't pick me to be the leader if I'm not that leader. So same thing. I think it's a selection.
When you pay more, right?
Yeah.
I think two things happen. The further up you go, you have a lot more latitude to just pay for that person, right? The end size becomes 1. So I've got a VP of sales. There's a lot more latitude to move and say, well, I'm going to pay them, whatever, right? 300,000 rags versus 400,000 rags, right?
Mhm.
It's like, there's a lot of latitude because I don't have a peer that I have to be like, why are you paying Paul, 500,000 and me 200,000? I mean, it's obvious why you would do that once you meet us. But in that case, you don't have that peer pressure going on. I think the second thing that comes into play, the further up you go, there's a lot more leverage on their comp traditionally in the US now. And so their performance, that skill, that soft skill to motivate comes out and shows up in revenue increase, other places, and they get paid more. So their compensation is typically tracked towards leveraging that, which I actually agree with, right? Soft skills are hard to measure. Were you a good motivator? Some people have to be yelled at, some people have to be coached, and so you could be good at one of those, but maybe not all. And so as you drive the business forward, you get paid for that. And if you don't, they don't.
What do you think about the future of salary service? Is something is become different in this, like, because I'm here in this market for 13 years, and actually I think is not. I've never seen something new since this data. Of course, it's a major view. Like I can be incorrect my point of view, but I would like to understand about you.
So we actually just pushed out some white papers about AI and comp yesterday. So go to our website, Resource Hub, find it. But one of the key points is that one thing or two things really AI can't replace is data, because it needs data.
Yeah,
it doesn't create data. And if it's creating data, it's lying.
It's the meal.
That's right. And the second is deep methodology, right? Because it's trained on the internet. It's not trained on how a comp person would think distinctly. So I say that as backdrop, which is, I think the concept of a salary database doesn't go anywhere. We still need it. We still want to know benchmarks, and you want to know that it's comparable orgs. You want to know that it's trusted, it's verified data. Like, that doesn't go away. What goes away probably is the difficulty in making that happen, right? So I think the speed with which I should be able to give my organization's data to that database and get it back should go up. The traditional survey cycle of get Excel file, copy data into Excel file, send it back, maybe 3 or 4 months later, you get that quarter's update. That's what will change.
Yeah.
But the concept of trusted, curated data that I know is real, AI can't change that. It doesn't know how to do that. But direct HRIS integration is a real thing. Just a speedier process is a real thing. Needing to get jobs in the library faster is a real thing. Yeah. So that's what changed. I think just the speed of delivery, but not. So it's more of a form factor thing, not an actual difference in how it works in your workflow. That's our thesis.
I think there's defined survey is what I tell people now, right? So if you're talking about compensation data, traditional surveys, right? To your point, you fill it out, whatever, and it's the gold standard. There were always issues with that too. I mean, the joking line I have is the person who fills out your salary survey is the most junior person nobody likes. Like, that job sucks. We're going to give it to that dude, right? And they're probably the least tenured person, and then maybe the data gets checked, right? Yeah. So there were always some issues, but the data was the data, right? It was coming from the company. And that, I think, helps. I think the job leveling helps because someone's in that company looking at that survey and kind of being like, this job is this level for a reason. So as a runner triathlete, like, I always look at shoes, right? So the graphic designer for a shoe company is generally paid like a grade or two higher than it for a lot of other companies, because for a lot of people, especially in fashion shoes, the designer is more important than the shoe, how it fits, right? And so they pay more, and they know that. They're like, this is a job level 19, even though yours says a 17. That has value because there's that piece. But then you start thinking about the other sources of data. So payroll data, right? Payroll data is great. It literally is that amount, or there's a line out their door, right? That's the amount. But you can't always trust like what the job is in there. So the CFO might be still listed as the accountant because he moved up through the company and just nobody changed in the payroll company, right? And so you're not going to, you're not going to have an accountant making $400,000 US. So there's those issues. So there's a lot of different sources. I actually think it's a really hard time right now for practitioners to figure out what data to use. So you've got that payroll data, you got scrape data, you got survey data, you got like Levels does a great job with data that's sent in.
Offer data.
Yeah, offer data
Yeah,
for Compa. Levels has data submitted from employees. And so as a practitioner, how do you pick and, and actually, we do interpolated data, which is large language model data. And so as a practitioner, where do you find the time to go through all these? How do you do it? And then there's some practical things that people don't think about because, obviously it's Salary. We want you to buy our data, right? The problem is for any company that doesn't have Salary, we know their budget's not going up. Like they don't get extra money, right? That's just not how it works in comp. And so they're forced with these tough decisions of how do I finance this? What do I not have? And functionally, that might change my ranges and how I pay, and management will be upset. So it's very complicated, actually, even though there's all this really cool shit out in the market around data, to your point, like surveys are still good. There's other stuff, but like, how do I make that change with all this stuff? And it's changing so fast. So for 30 years, you could buy these 2 surveys and be like, that's cool. Like, I start the year, I know I'm filling out these 2 surveys. Sorry, WorldatWork, 3 surveys for every role. And that thing, I'm gonna have 3 data sources, and that was my thing. And I might swap one out for some new roles. But now, like, how do you deal with a functional change and new? And it's the same with tech, right? So much stuff out there right now. How do I functionally choose? And by the way, I don't have extra time and I don't have extra money.
That's where I want to advocate for the practitioner. I do hope that AI changes the economics of data.
Correct.
I created a survey when I was at Hewitt for sales comp back 15, 16 years ago. It was expensive because we had to have humans validating data inputs, right? Like there was a lot of human time that went into it that makes it hard to price, right? I'm hoping that all of those out there managing these big surveys that we all know and trust can find ways to not decrease the quality and decrease the value, but decrease their costs. And hopefully that, I don't know if this will ever happen. Maybe I'm too Pollyanna, but I want it to make it more accessible. Like I want data to be cheaper. It should be. Data's commoditizing.
Yes and no. And here's where I'll push back a little bit. So to give you the same quality data that you wanted before, 100% I would agree that like it should be done faster, cheaper, or faster for sure. Like, and it should be done cheaper. But the goal is to give you the best data possible, which means I now have to aggregate more data sources. I want to give you better data. I jokingly said yesterday, comp people get very excited about finding how much cost accountant 2 makes in Sheboygan down to the 15th significant digit, right? We don't need that type of stuff, but you want to know that this data comes from multiple places and you want to cut it and you want to be able to do a lot of things, and it'll get expensive. I think AI, like we haven't talked that there is, AI is free-ish now. As token costs rise, it's going to cost more money to produce and use AI. And so we'll have to be selective about it. So I'm very interested to see what happens, because I would hope that even if you have to spend the same amount of money
it'll be better.
on your vendors, it'll be significantly better other than just saving some money to get the same stuff. And actually, I would push back. It's America. It's capitalism. Unless there's a lot of downward price pressure from all the vendors, and practitioners will pay less, won't pay what they're paying now, most companies will just continue to take what they charge now.
Profit taking is real. I hope that there's enough disruption. I guess I don't wish that upon good friends of mine that are data providers, but for the practitioner, I kind of want it. Like I need someone to disrupt and make us rethink how that works. Like there's value.
I do think it'll go down. I think it'll allow them to then buy tools. Like I think, TR and HR have been amazing at maximizing their budget. So the money they save there, they will use somewhere else for tools and to be more efficient. They're very good at that.
Good.
There's something that really, I don't know if that is a word, intrigues me. Is that
That's a word?
Okay.
You got it.
People come here to hear about the trends and to learn something and to. How does it feel to be the trendsetter? Because when you're at stage and you're talking to people and things you think in your daily life, things you see in your work day, things you are reading, studying, the background experiences, and suddenly you are standing in front of a bunch of people and telling them what I think, what they should think about, what they should be studying. How does it feel like? How does it feel like?
Awkward, to be honest with you. Like, there's always a little bit of imposter syndrome that comes up. I think I used to frame myself as the troublemaker, right? I'm actually not great at like predicting the future. Every time I try, I get it wrong. I'm more of a troublemaker. Like, I'm pretty good at identifying something that doesn't feel right and talking about that. So whether that's trendsetter, I don't know. I mean, people do say, I can't wait to come to your sessions. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
I know. What else was going on that
I
hour?
appreciate that sentiment. However, like, I don't know if I think of myself that way. I don't know if you do, but
I for sure, because I've never been a practitioner. And I 100% will call that out at the beginning of most of my sessions. And you've heard me say it a million times. I've never been a practitioner. I definitely don't want to be. That shit looks hard. Like, and you have to deal with humans and whatever. I think I look at it from like, I'm providing you a perspective from the outside. Vendors are, as long as they're not selling, we see thousands of clients, right? And so we have a unique perspective of what people have done right and wrong. Practitioners, if they go to 12 jobs in a year and in a lifetime, that's a lot, right? And so we're able to bring it. So for me, it's always like, can I get you to think about things? And then also the practicality, because I think there's a lot of, almost like an optimistic pessimist. It's like, this is really cool, but like, how do we actually make this happen? Go and get people to think on that. And most of the sessions, like here, it's facilitation and getting people to think. And I like doing that a lot more and getting people involved. And like, every situation is unique at a company. Like, you really can't tell people what to do. It's impossible.
What you are looking for today, guys? Last question.
Still networking. Like, I'm still meeting more people. I feel like I've been at this a long time, but there's still a lot of people I don't know. So that's great. I have 2 sessions that I'll be leading or participating in, one, leading another. Another one on AI for those that are stuck using Copilot. We're going to help them get unstuck and figure out how to make the most out of using Copilot for comp.
You were doing there at the
at the AI Skills Lab. Okay. So
what
come early, because it will be jammed.
Yeah.
What time? I should know the answer to this. It's right before lunch.
Okay.
So it's in that segment right before lunch. And then I'm participating on a panel with us about pay for performance and what's sort of myth and reality. I'm just answering questions at that point, not leading that one directly.
Okay.
But I'm looking forward to that, of course.
And you, Sean?
Well, if you want to have more fun at 11:45, you come to my
Oh, that's right. We're competing at that point. I forgot about that.
So, it'll be more fun. It's one of my favorite sessions, actually. You talked about facilitating. So we're doing a simulation. It's one of my favorite versus presenting. We basically give them a company that's not in great shape. A 1,200 person manufacturing company. They've never had a comp person. They still use Excel.
Yeah.
They got problems. What would you do? And every individual table has.
This is good for Brazil. Good subject.
And so like, they have a table and we give them a big notepad and we're like, you have a board meeting in 2 weeks and you have to tell them everything you want to do and how much it's going to cost. Board meetings in 2 weeks, you have 1 minute per day. So in 14 minutes, you have to come back and kind of tell the group what you're going to do. And then I'm doing it, which is kind of fun. Kyle Labach, who's the new COO of WorldatWork, is helping me facilitate. And while they do some ice breaking in between, we'll go back and have a board meeting and give them what they need, which will be nowhere near what they asked.
Okay.
And say, now what would you do? And it's a really cool way to watch, because you end up at these tables, people randomly come in, because most companies don't come with like 10 people, right?
Yeah.
Only the Brazilians show up in a pack. And so like they're meeting new people, but the cool part of that is they are also at small companies, big companies, public companies, private companies. And the way they work the problems always ends up being similar, but different, right?
Yeah.
And it's very cool to see how they do it. I don't know if anyone's going. Sometimes in the middle of it, I make a move. I tell them that 2 people with the earliest birthdays in the year have to switch tables. There's turnover.
Somebody quits.
Yeah, somebody quits. So, but it's one of my favorite sessions. Like the session I have tomorrow is great. We've been doing it for years and it's great. But this session in particular, because it's like 40 people, you see everybody, is super cool. And I learned as much that's the cool part. Like all of my knowledge over the years has come from people sharing.
Yeah.
Like I came with nothing, and I'm a slow learner. So, it's been a lot of people involved.
Your session tomorrow is not the same. You've moved on from limoncello to like a
margarita.
And it's margaritas, and it's wow.
I heard.
Yeah, I have.
It's not the same.
It's definitely WorldatWork doesn't do the same ones every year. It's definitely different. And we're wearing different clothes. Yeah, lemons last year, margaritas this year.
Yeah. It's totally different.
Totally different.
Totally different.
And there's just a lot. I'm with you. Like as much as we give each other grief about knowing everybody, you still get to meet really, really cool people. And we've talked about nobody
chooses
rewards
Total
find you.
Rewards.
Yeah.
Total Rewards chooses you.
Yeah. And so everyone's backstory is always super interesting, how they got there. Whereas like if you go to an engineering conference I've got kids that are either engineers or biologists, they just like out of high school, that's the track they were on. Nobody here was a freshman in high school going, you know what I want to do? And they'd be like, dude, you need to go. No.
What did you want to be when you were a freshman in high school?
Weirdly, I wanted to be an attorney, which I was too dumb to be one.
What is
a lawyer?
Lawyer.
What would be your merchandising,
Your brand. What would your logo be?
Like
Luchins and Luchins?
Well, so the weird thing is,
associated.
Because your wife's a lawyer.
So yeah, I wasn't smart enough, so I married one. And so I do have over my office, it says Luchin's Law Office because she had a firm. So that's as close as I got to that mission. And the truth is, it changed a lot. Actually, with 168 hours, most of my credits are in chemical engineering, thermodynamics.
Yeah.
Like I have all this engineering stuff. And it just goes to show that we've talked to people on the show, finance, engineering, like it is mind-blowing the backstories of where everyone comes.
All over the place.
Sales, sales, and they ended up in sales comp, and they were like, comp's cool. And it's like mind-blowing the backstories of how people get into our space, which makes for such a cool melting pot of people all tackling the same story.
I agree. Good. Totally.
Sorry, that's me rambling a little bit. I think the community is super cool.
I just realized I never asked that question. Like, I mean, I know the rest of the backstory, but I'm like, you use the freshman in high school line or the elementary school. I'm like,
I saw one slogan, facing the Goliath, call David. His name was David. Great.
So they were noticing, one of the things they noticed, so this is very cultural, when they got here, they're like, what's with all the attorney signs everywhere? Because you can't do it. Yeah, and they're like, it's so
entertainment for the one who's not driving, right? Because who's driving needs to stay.
Otherwise, they're going to get called by one. Yeah, if they're not watching the road.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you can't advertise. Yeah. It's like when you go abroad. I forget when you're there. Can they advertise drugs on TV, like pharmaceutical drugs?
Yeah, we can't see it.
No. So when you go like to the UK and other places,
so why are they talking about this so much?
You realize how
why is everybody overweight? Why are we always talking about weight loss drugs in the U.S., right?
What's interesting is it's truly noticeable when you go across, and then you realize how much of our airtime is actually taken by those ads because they're filling the ad time with other stuff. So it is really interesting. But it was interesting. It was one of the first things they told me. It's good. Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. Have a great day and good job. And it will be a pleasure to talk with you tomorrow, like to understand.
Yeah, this is great. I really appreciate you guys doing all this.
And give his guarana.
I will reluctantly share my guarana. I ate all the fishwada, so we didn't save any fishwada for him.
Yeah, fishwada.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
But the guarana, I have a can for him.
We're going to show you a photo and then we're going to understand.
All right. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.